Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I think is Monday. Happy Monday. Gosh, I hope you guys are using this quarantine time to your advantage and, you know, just kind of using it to improve skills or, you know, just kind of do whatever. Just use the downtime to your advantage. So anyway, today's tutorial is something that is near and dear to my heart. I'm super excited to do this. I love it. I've done this tutorial many times. I should almost include like a little playlist because I've done it so many times, but it's my absolute favorite thing in the world, and that is how to do the transition shade for hooded eyes, how to sculpt out and create a quote fake crease on the hooded eye situation, and to kind of explain in depth the anatomy of the eye, the alignment, the structure, because you've got to understand the anatomy of the eye. You have to understand your own natural born eye shape, your own natural contour, what you're working with, so that you can create shape, so you can create depth and definition. My eyes without, you know, creating that shape is nothing because I don't have a actual crease. I think of a crease as like a garage. Like I can't even imagine. It's like when you live in an apartment, right? And you don't have a garage, you just have covered parking. That's what we have. I have covered parking. I have some skin fold, that like a hood that just hangs down over the eyelid. So I don't have an actual crease. I don't have a garage for the car. So I kind of have to create a garage. And it's just, you know, the whole thing, I just can't even imagine having a actual crease, like having a place for your eyeshadow to go. Like, who'd have thunk it? I know, right? So that is what the tutorial is on today. It's pretty lengthy. It's a kind of descriptive, so it's a lot of talking as normal, but I wanted to make this really in-depth. Now, on the next tutorial, we are going to do the berries and cream. I'm going to do that icy kind of purpley terracotta look that I showed you guys on Instagram a while back. I absolutely love this palette, so we are doing that next for the tutorial, but I really wanted to do this one today. So, all right. That's it. Gonna keep the intro short. If you guys are new, welcome. I'm Lauren Jade. I'm 57. I have mature, crepey, wrinkly skin with hooded eyes that are slightly downturned. And yeah, the struggle is real. So I'm always looking to pass my tips and tricks on to you guys, even though we all have different eye shapes and levels of hoodedness. And hopefully you guys will pick up a few tips and tricks so you guys can rock your hooded eye situation as well. And with all of that said, if you guys are new, I'd love to have you join me. Please hit the subscribe button and the post notification bell right next to it. That way YouTube notifies you each and every time I upload. And that was a mouthful. And so without further ado, let's get right into this tutorial. Okay. Eyes are primed. I use MAC Paint Pot here in Soft Ochre, and I'm going to go ahead and set this primer with this shade right here from the 35OM Morphe palette. I'm using a Crown shader brush, and I'm just going to place this on my upper socket bone area. You guys know that I have kind of said bye-bye. I know I always say that, but bye-bye to that cookie cutter one-size-fits-all YouTube tutorial where they set that primer with the translucent powder. It works, I guess, if you like that. I like to have a nice peachy skin tone shade. I also kind of tap it in to the primer, and it kind of gives that cream shadow effect. Plus, this little skin tone shade works with, you know, whatever transition shade I use. So it almost is like a halo shade. It kind of just like peaks over and above everything else. You guys have heard me say that a million times now. When you kind of tap it into, it kind of looks like it's part of your skin when you have one of those nice skin tone shades. I'm going to take this shade here, Highway Queen, from the On the Run mini palette, and I'm just going to use this NYX double-ended brush, and I'm just going to buff this all around this upper socket region, so pretty much right on my orbital bone, and just kind of feather that out. Okay, if you guys are following along with me at home and you're going to do this, you're going to need to have just pick your favorite socket worker brush. Whatever brush fits into that socket and allows you to kind of carve out that fake crease. If you guys remember back in the day, I always used an angled liner brush. This is a Scott Barnes number E60. This is a Sigma E65, but any angled liner brush will do. Now, a harsh line is not always a bad thing. For me, I like that dark to light contrast. So when I'm doing that gradient fade of color in my transition shade, I always deepen the base so that the the bottom part, the base, right next to like where the lid. So I have that dark to light contrast between the lid and the crease. So I don't mind a harsh line. In fact, sometimes I want that because I want that depth there. If that makes any sense. So I don't really call it a harsh line, but there's so much negativity with this harsh line, you have to blend it out. So if you want that more precise line, you could use something like this. You could also use, give you some other options. You need something that's really going to fit inside your socket and allow you to really kind of get in there and deposit the color and blend it out. If you use a tapered brush, like a pointed tapered brush, like an M441, for example, is a really good one because it's pointed. You can get in there, you can deposit that color right inside that socket. And then you can hold the brush at an upward angle, and the bristles on the side of the brush are just going to do the blending for you because that's how these brushes are designed. They're tapered down here for that specific purpose. You could also use something like a Sigma E25. This is an M441. MAC 217 is the same, but that one might be a little bit fatter, but that works as well. Just something that's kind of flat that allows you to really kind of get in there and lay the color precisely where you want it. Then you can hold the brush upwards, and again, it will blend out for you. So just pick whichever brush works good for you. I'm going to take this M441. And normally, you guys know, I sculpt out a shadow crease, right? I always contour, you know, my eye socket. I always put in that contour and just kind of sculpt out that shadow crease. That's a staple in all of my eyeshadow looks. I'm going to skip that for right now so that you guys can better see like what, you know, where we're working. Okay, so this is literally like verbatim out of like a gazillion videos that I've done on, you know, creating your fake crease and just kind of, you know, sculpting that out, because when you have hooded eyes, you don't have a actual crease line. You have a skin fold that just kind of hangs down. You have a hood that hangs down and encroaches on your lid space and kind of blocks your lid area. So we have to take the shadows up higher. So I always take mine inside my socket bone. Now, my orbital bone is right here. We all have an orbital bone, which is directly right here. If you kind of, you can feel for it. You can kind of, like you kind of push in, right? And where it kind of squishes and soft, that's the hollow of the eye. That's where you want to work. You want to deposit that color right underneath that socket bone, orbital bone, whatever you want to call it. So that's where we're going to be. So take the tip of your brush and just kind of feel, poke around in there, just kind of feel. And your brush will eventually kind of sink in, and that's where we're going to be working. If you hold the brush down here, it's going to push the color upwards, which sometimes I want. If you hold the brush kind of like this, it's just going to kind of deposit the color kind of exactly where you want it, and then you can flip it up a little bit and it'll just kind of blend those edges upwards. So I'm going to use this 441. So here's where, actually, you know what? I'm going to grab this angle brush just so that you can see the groove that I'm talking about. So we're going to start right here. If you look at your eye shape, you see this little groove right here. I tried to explain this like in all of my other tutorials when I would always kind of carve out my fake crease, and I know it was always kind of hard to see because I always had bronzer in there. So this time I'm starting with a fresh eye. So I'm going to take this shade, and I'm just going to go like this so you can see which area I'm talking about. And we're going to think about this orbital bone, kind of like underneath that bone. We're going to think about it like a loop around the city, you know. We're going to get on that loop, and we're going to stay in there, and we're not going to get off. So I'm just going to, because I want you to kind of see here. It's kind of a natural, I don't know, it's just like indented in here. I call it a little groove. You can see it right in there. So that's where we're going to start. Now I'm going to lighten this up because I don't want that, you know, I don't want that depth of saturation of color like right in there. So I'm going to take the, you know what, I'm going to go with the 441. So I'm going to take that out. So now you can see. So I'm going to pick up a little bit on the tip of the brush, tap it off even too, like on the back of the hand, so I don't get like all of that color. And I'm going to kind of start really lightly, like right in here, right right in there. And I'm going to go around. So I'm going to follow the hollow of my eye and I'm going to go all the way around. I'm not going to take it all the way down to the bottom because my eyes are slightly downturned. If I do that, it's just going to drag the eye down. So I'm going to stop kind of like right here. So the alignment would be following your lower lash line up. It would be almost like adjacent to it. So I'm going to start right in here and just go around town. Now, if you're following along, stay with me. Don't lift your brush up. Just stay with me. Sorry, you guys, I had to sneeze. So I'm going to go back into this shade. You guys can pick any color that you want. So we're going to continue on. So I think I was like right over here. So keep that brush right in that socket and we're just going to go around town. Stay right in that hollow of the eye. I'm holding the brush upwards so it'll kind of, you know, soften and just kind of blend at the same time. Now, here's where I stopped. Right here. Goes directly, if I take a line down from where I stopped, it will go right to the edge of the eye. So it's almost like if my lower lash line were kind of continuing on up, it would be like right there. So because my eyes are slightly downturned, this is kind of where I stop. It also kind of helps to keep everything kind of lifted. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I've already kind of started. You can see that little indentation of color right there. I'm going to put that brush right in that groove right in there. I'm going to stay right underneath that socket bone, right underneath there. Not going anywhere. Keep your brush right in there. Don't move it. I'm just going to lift it up a little bit because it'll kind of help to soften and blend the shadow while I'm there. Leave that right in there. So I'm getting this in here and I'm kind of buffing it upwards as I go. I'm really taking it high up through that socket because I am catfishing? Yes, catfishing. Okay. Just checking to see if you guys remember because you guys know how I feel about my catfishing. Everything is taking up higher. Okay. So now that I have this, so now my transition shade is almost pretty much done. And again, if I go in here and I just build up color, it's going to be super heavy. The other thing you can do if you don't want to really kind of get in that socket, you can just kind of lay that color right on top of that hood. Just start right here and just kind of go straight across and just kind of lay that color directly right on the hood or the skin fold of the eye. And it will be pretty much exactly kind of in the same spot as if you were to get in there and go carve it right out underneath that socket bone. I like to get in there really, really high and hollow out the eye because, again, I like to catfish. So that is what I do here with this. Now, if I'm going to take more additional shades, I will start out here. And then I will kind of bring them up and around and in because I like everything kind of going up. I never take my shadows and just go straight across my crease with them because that closes my eyes off. I always take my shadows up. I kind of follow my own natural orbital bone. I follow my natural eye shape, which is kind of going up high. And then it kind of comes down this way. But when I'm going like that, I'm going up towards the brow area because I want that lift. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a, brush is going to work really good for this, is this Sigma. This is the Beauty Bird. It's just a double-ended brush. And I'm just going to take that, I'm just going to buff out these edges even more and just kind of get them up and out. Just the edges. I don't want to disturb the color, so I'm not going to like go in here. I'm just buffing these edges up and out. Okay, so with that transition shade kind of in place, you can kind of see that I kind of have that shadow crease kind of sculpted out. So now I'm going to pick up just a little bit of this bronzer. I'm using the Hoola bronzer from last year's Blush Bar. And I'm just going to shade my inner corner and just kind of connect it to the nose contour. So I kind of work right in this area. It's like right where the nose bridge connects into this, the brow bone area. So right in here. And I like to push it up towards the brow. Just kind of push that up in there. And I love this inner corner shading because with hooded eyes, it just gives such a nice sultry fade. I mean, I suppose you could say it's slightly editorial. I suppose somebody could say that. But I don't think of it that way. I just love it, and it's really soft, and I rarely bring shadow colors in, you know, this far. I mainly just do that with like a light peachy tone shade or my bronzer. So I'm just going to do this inner corner shading right in here. Kind of sculpt out a little bit right in here. Get it really high up. I'm getting right underneath that socket bone, right where I started with that transition shade. So right in that groove right there, the edge of this brush is hugged right underneath that socket. And if you have hooded eyes, that's kind of like where you're working, right, in that socket, because you want all of your eyeshadows and you want these colors to actually see. Because again, we don't have a crease. I think of a crease as like a garage. Like, can you imagine, like those of us that have hooded eyes, can you imagine having a place for your eyeshadow to go? Like, I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. All right, now I'm mapping out my lid space, putting in that light in there. Shade and light always work together. So now you can better see the shadow crease that I sculpted out. You can see that contour right up in there on my orbital bone. You can see the transition shade, and then you can see the bronzer. Everything kind of comes to light when you have, you know, your highlight, because anywhere where you have contour, basically you need to have like your highlight, you know, like you contour here, so your highlight is over here. When you contour the sides of your nose, you always make sure you highlight kind of like down the center. It's the same thing with the eyes, right? You're kind of contouring your orbital bone right in through here, and then you want to make sure that this area is really kind of light, and then you can really kind of see that shading. I'm just using this is the Bone Shade from the Tarte Clay Play. So, but any bone shade will work. Just gonna tap that in there, and I love to tap and press. A lot of times when you tap and press the shadows, it just kind of automatically blends it out for you, just kind of melts it right in there. I'm also gonna take a little bit on this inner corner here. All right, so I'm gonna take just a quickie second to talk about when your eyes have a slight downturn shift. So if you look at this outer part right here, and then you look at the inner tear duct, if they are directly straight across, then you have that symmetry there. If this part here lifts up a little bit higher than the inner tear duct, then you are so fortunately blessed with upturned eyes, which kind of gives you that feline up, and that would be like a dream, right? But if your eyes have a slight downturn shift, so if this part is just slightly a little bit lower than the tear duct, then you have a slight droopiness to the eye. So what you want to do is you want to create lift. So if you take your outer V in a normal V situation, like what you normally see on the YouTube tutorials where they go here and they go here, that works if your eyes are, you know, symmetrical. But if they have a slight downturn shift and you put that little V out there, it's not only going to drag the eye down, but you're also bringing shadows out here and down, and it's just not a good look, at least on me and my eye shape. So I take my V up a little bit higher, and where I start, like at the end part here of my fake crease, that is up a little bit higher than somebody that would have, you know, quote, normal, you know, symmetry here in this area. So I am going to take my little depth up a little bit higher. I'm going to use this Wet n Wild brush, 50 cents on Amazon with Prime shipping. I think I bought like 5 of them. I bought these like 5 weeks ago, like before this whole thing happened. 2-day delivery, I got like 5 of them because this part right here is just perfect. The tip is just perfect for what I need. So I'm going to take Road Soda, and I'm going to mix it with this Shag Van. So I'm going to go into both of those, and I'm going to look here, and I'm going to decide where I want that lift. Where do I want that height on my eye shape? So for me, I want it right here. So I'm just going to kind of stamp. Just going to kind of make like almost like a little triangle, right? Like a little triangle. Just by stamping, you kind of get that little triangle. And now you can see that I have, it just kind of looks like there's a little bit of a lift going on. Added depth and dimension too. And I'm just kind of tapping this in, and it's just kind of melted right on in to the transition shade that I did. So you can see it just kind of added some lift and kind of gave my eye some depth and dimension. And now I'm just going to buff a little bit of the edges going this way and the other one kind of going this way. So again, it's the same type of a V. It's just a different type of a V. It's just a little bit of a higher one and at a little bit of a different angle. So now I kind of have that lift and I kind of have that shape. You can also kind of just do small circular motions and it'll just kind of diffuse that little pinpoint a little bit more. Now, a lot of times if I'm going to be building up color, let's say I want to have a little bit of a deeper base in there, I might just go into the darker shade and I might just kind of do the same little pinpoint just kind of right below it and just kind of, you know, buff it out. But anything more than that is just getting too heavy on the actual like middle part of the eye, and it's just going to weigh it down. So I like to keep it very light. Though I just wanted to stick with the transition shade. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this. Normally I use my P. Louise base. I'm just going to use this little Sigma pen here. I'm going to start right on this inner corner. So right on that inner part where we started, you know, where we went around town. I was telling you that I really like to keep it light, so I don't usually put shadow in that dark, like in there, but I'm going right in that indentation. I'm going right in the hollow of the eye. I'm going to go up as high because I'm going to catfish. So again, kind of getting right underneath that bone. I'm kind of just doing a half cut crease. I'm going to take this P. Louise brush and just smooth that out. You can see how much more lid space I have. It's like, what hooded eyes? I don't know what you're talking about. All right, I think I'm going to take this shade, this gold shade, and then this one. I love this one. So I'm going to start with this gold shade and just kind of pat this in the center. And then I'm going to take that lighter shade. I'm going to flip the brush over and take that lighter one, kind of a peachy, and just kind of go on the inner corner right here. Kind of mesh these two together. All right, I'm just going back in. I'm just kind of cleaning up like the border. So I will take like any brush and just kind of like flick away and just kind of, you know, clean up the border where the border, like right where the shimmer and the mattes meet. I'm deepening up my little pinpoint here, which is like a little triangle. And if you think about like in terms of like alignment, so for me, I like the edge to kind of like the end of this crease to have that depth right underneath the arch of the brow. So you can kind of see when I'm doing my little triangle here, it's kind of pointing up towards like this little arch of the brow. The same way, right, when you're doing your winged liner, right, you want kind of that tail pointing up towards like the tail of the brow so that you have total alignment. All right, next I'm going to grab this Jaclyn Hill. This is the, what is this one? The Armed and Gorgeous. I'm going to take this white shade, P. Louise brush, and I'm just going to go right on this inner part. I always like to really keep that light and bright. It's kind of like right where we started. Remember when we were going around town, right into that socket? It's going to start right in there. It's going to keep that really light in there. Let's say you want to add a little bit of an accent crease. I love to kind of put in a little accent like right out here just to add a little bit of depth. I'm going to take this shade right here. I think this is the, yeah, this is the Butter shade from the Jaclyn Hill palette. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that. I'm going to use the Scott Barnes number 60 brush. I'm going to go right into like the socket and right where I want that depth. And I just want to put like a little, like right out here. It's like a little accent crease. I'm not even going to blend this. Like, this is just adding a little bit of depth right there, right? Kind of at the base of that triangle. And I'm just kind of mimicking my, you know, my natural crease, basically. When you follow your own eye shape in your, you know, just your normal, just your own natural shape, right? It just makes everything so much easier. So I'm just mimicking where my natural crease is, which is right here. I'm just putting a little right above it. Another little kind of fake crease, like right at the base of that triangle. Just to add a tiny bit of depth. It doesn't do much, but you kind of see that little, it's almost like, it's almost kind of Jamie Genevieve style, right? Where she kind of has this little like, this little depth right there. It's like, it's barely noticeable, but it just totally defines the eyes and just makes the entire eye shape. And it's this one little tiny little accent depth right there. All right, that completes Shadow Wing. And I'm using my Biba palette as per usual. I'm grabbing the Rayon and the Pasha shade. And I'm just kind of sketching out like a wing here. When I do my shadow wings, I like to alternate between a flat definer brush and a angled liner brush. I'm just pushing this into the lashes so I get that, add some depth and dimension to the lashes because I'm not going to be messing with falsies today. So I'm just going to push this right into the lashes. I'm going to kind of pull it out a little bit. I have switched to an angled liner brush to get the inner corner here. I always make it really thin on the inner corner and then thicker as you go towards the outer corner. That really helps when you have downturned eyes. It just kind of helps give you more lift. So to kind of get that little whoosh, that little wing, I like to just kind of take the side of the brush and just kind of whisk, just kind of pull it out. You kind of get that whoosh of color, and then you can kind of smoke on top of it, and it just looks really just a cool effect. And a couple of different things you can do. I'm just gonna take a tiny bit. You can follow your lower lash line, just kind of create that line kind of going up, right? And it'll just kind of meet up with the points. Or you can pull that wing out and then connect it down so that you're in the same alignment as your lower lash line going up. I like everything kind of lifted, so either way you get that really kind of precise line. Grab a little bit of that terracotta shade and just kind of go straight on up. I like to connect the wing to the lower lash line smoke, so that's usually what I do. It just kind of lifts it right up and just kind of helps to blend that darker wing color. Just take it right on up over there. All right, I forgot to show you guys this. I'm wearing this blush today. This is the 502 Lines, and okay, right there you can see. It's a beautiful, like a tangerine coral shade. Lines, and last night, love it. This was on sale at Sephora, so I had to pick one up. I think it was like $29. Let's see, what else? Oh, on my lips, I'm wearing the Artist Couture. This is the new one. This is in the shade Angel Baby, and underneath it, I have the Melted Matte. This is in the shade Ice Cream. So I always mix a matte with like a cream shade on top of it. It just helps with the longevity, and plus liquid lipsticks are so drying. So this is what I've got on my lips. And lip liner, I think I'm using the Morphe. I think I had either Backseat Love or Love Bite. But anyway, it's a Morphe lip liner. So that's what's going on there. Now I've got my Anastasia Dewy Set here and my fan. I'm going to spray the face, and I'll be back to show you guys what I'm doing for my next 2 tutorials. You got to see these palettes, so hold that thought. All right, guys, that completes the look. Now, really quickly, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys seen the look that I posted using the Dominique Cosmetics, the Berries and Cream palette. I'm going to show you guys that right here, super quick. All right, so I got my next 2 tutorials already planned out. We're going to do kind of a purpley, shimmery. Oh my gosh, this look is bomb. Absolutely loved it so much. I loved how it came out. So this will be next. We're going to do the Berries and Cream Dominique Cosmetics, and then we're going to dip into the new Sigma Beauty palette, the Corda Rosa palette. This is just an absolute stunner. I pre-ordered this about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So anyway, I got it like last week, and I just absolutely love it. It is a stunner, and this is the most beautiful plastic piece. It's thick. I mean, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's got this gold design in there. It's the same as what is on the palette. Just absolutely beautiful. You've got the shade names right on the palette, and then you've got the shades on the back. Love, love, love this. So, all right, guys, that is it. I thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like what you've seen, if you learned something, if you picked something up, I hope you guys will subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell on your way out of town. And that's it. I love you guys, and I will see you all in my next one.